Hey gun people, 1911 cleaning here. I'm cleaning up one of my 1911s, so I wanted to kind of show you if I can get it to flip. Oh crap. Alright, that should be good enough to maybe get in there. So there's a lot of videos on how to break down the 1911 and how to tear it apart, but after a lot of cleaning and a lot of working with 1911s, when I clean a gun and people tell me it's cleaned and they cleaned it, there's always places that people miss. And after you clean enough of these, you find all these little holes that people miss when they're cleaning their guns. So I wanted to go over each little area where I think people miss when they clean their 1911. Now, I don't take it completely down every time I shoot it. Maybe I do on some of my guns, but most of the time I'll take this down maybe once every 2 to 3 times, once or twice a year. I don't like going over 6 months or a year without having a complete breakdown on my gun that I've used, because if it isn't really clean, when I put this back together, it's going to be really clean. So until I put a bullet through it, I'm not worried about unburnt powder, corrosion, a little bit of rust. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of little, this was a used gun, so when I cleaned it, I got a whole bunch of little rust and let's see, you can tell from some of the cleaning things that I have here, this brown. This is usually just from powder and stuff sitting in there, that brown. So the main things that I use when I'm cleaning a gun is I usually use rim oil. I mean, you can use other stuff. If I've got a gun with a little bit of rust or something, this strike force or strike hold's pretty good. You just rub it and rub it, and each time you rub it, on blued guns that have a good blue, but it's got a little surface rust, this will really shine it up, make your bluing look nice. And it's also a great cleaner. I also use this Safari Charlie. That's pretty good. It's like a lemon oil. It cleans and polishes nice also. But normally I'm just using rim oil, and on any wooden grips, I usually just put some of this on it. It's feed and wax, get it at Home Depot. Shake it up real good. Make sure you don't lose all your good, see that's kind of sticking there. And if you put this on any wood at all, and I put this on any of my wood grips, and I let them set for a while, they will soak in that. I'll try to raise this just a little bit, see if that helps. They will soak in and make this wood here, they make your wood soft, and a lot of people don't condition the inside of their grips. So their grips get really dry here unless they get some gun oil that they put on their gun, and then the grips will get gun oil on it. But they really don't put wax or oil on their grips. So any of my wooden grips, I always put a little bit of this on it. It goes on wet, and then as you let it set, it kind of soaks and absorbs. Then I'll wipe it down when it's done, and you'll be able to feel a nice smooth finish. And so that's what I do with my grips. So let's I'll try to break this down to this part over here is your you know, if it's a rifle, you call it upper receiver, you call it your slide on your pistol. This is your slide on your 1911. So all these parts here is in your slide. If you break down your 1911, this is all your parts. So your extractor came out of here. It'll come right out right there. Your firing pin spring, firing pin, retainer pin. And that's pretty much what goes in the back part that nobody ever takes out. These tubes down here, a lot of people neglect these and don't clean these enough. You really want to get down these holes and spin and clean. I mean, I've already cleaned this 3 times and I let it set for a while, and you can tell already that I'm getting more crap off it. So I always like to clean it, put some oil on it, and then let it set while I'm cleaning the rest of the gun. And then where the extractor came out, you want to get that in there good and clean too. Those are 2 places on a slide that people rarely clean. Around this edge where this firing pin retainer slides in and holds your it holds in your firing pin, that groove that holds this part right around here, people neglect it. So I usually put a little oil in there, and then a Q-tip, I'll run that around those little grooves to make sure that I'm getting those grooves. And again, nobody ever really cleans that, because that's where these little grooves on this thing right here slide in there. And they slide right in there, and they hold that retaining pin, and then when they're sitting in there, nobody ever cleans where they sit. So major parts missed there. The other thing is the surface face here where the primer, or where the bullet, when the firing pin hits the primer gives a little back blast sometime. You'll get usually a circle or brass fragments there. Usually take a brush in there, get that real good, make sure that's good and polished and wiped out. You don't want to see any crap in there. This light, I'm not sure if it's getting in there to where you can see it or not. But anyway, so missed parts on this. Remember when you take your spring off your 1911, especially on your higher end ones, it's done. On some of your cheap ones, they loose. If the spring goes on and off very loosely like this, it's backwards. Your spring should be tight on one side and loose on the other. You notice when I do this one, it won't go all the way up and it kind of sticks. That's what I want on there, and the way you get it on there is you just twist it when you're pushing, and then it makes it seat real nice in there. So, and again, when you're cleaning this, when I'm cleaning my spring, and again, take it off same way, you twist the spring off. When I'm cleaning this spring, I'll spray it down with oil and get a nice pipe cleaner and get the inside. Then I'll wipe down the outside, spray it with oil, and then I'll put it back together. Again, making sure it's the right way. That goes on tight. It stays in its seats, doesn't come off. It'll hold my firing pin. I know it's on the right way. And your extractor, a lot of people don't pull these out. They're scared of bending them, breaking them, etc. If you don't mess with these are pretty much hardened pieces of metal that's not gonna, you're not gonna bend it too easy. I mean, you gotta really try to bend these. So you're not gonna mess it out by pulling it out, giving it a good wipe down, put some oil on it, making sure you get all the creases where things fit in. Remember I talked about this little pin sliding into the back? Well, this also holds in this piece. So because it holds that in, you have these pieces in here that are very tight, and as they're tight, if any oil or dirt gets in there, it's going to create a little rust. So you really want to clean those out good. This is a full-length guide rod. Of course, you know, a lot of people don't really get around the front here and really clean this. They'll just wipe the outside and wipe it down. Again, that's pretty simple. Inside here, the higher end the 1911, the more this will lock in. On your cheaper 1911s, this is all smooth and you don't have a lip. But if you notice on the inside here, there's a little lip. And that little lip will catch dirt and debris. So you really want to make sure and get that good and clean. And again, around here, this is going to slide in to a nice area. So if that slides in an area, I need to clean this and where it slides into. Well, it slides into the top part right in here on your frame. So when this goes on, that little metal piece there goes right up top, or right at the bottom rather, and then it slides in. And then then it locks as you close that. So make sure and get that lock where this little piece locks in. Is a Dan Wesson. They have tighter tolerances. They're more accurate. They're just made to fit better. So if it looks like I'm kind of struggling and they're really tight, they are tight fitting where they need to be tight, but they're smooth where they need to be smooth. And then on the barrel, of course, you know, a lot of people will just put oil, and sometimes I'll just spray some oil down here and run a patch. But, you know, if you get some Shooter's Choice or Hoppy's 9, that stuff will really take off and clean your barrel. When you think your barrel's clean, you put some Hoppy's or Shooter's Choice, let it set for a minute or two, and then use a patch, a clean patch. You'll notice a big difference. Same thing with all the holes. There's a pin that goes through here. Your slide lock pin, that goes right through here. Little piece here. So that's got, I want to make sure that's good and clean and smooth. My screen on my camera is awkward, so if I'm not getting it in here. And then this is another thing, is kind of because people think this is just the spring retainer, the recoil spring, they'll just clean it like this and be done. There's a little lip in here, and the lip stops the spring. And on a 1911, you always have a closed-in spring that's closed. I call it a finished in. And then you have your unfinished in where there's an open wire. That open wire never goes on your guide rod. I've taken apart many 1911s and see that open wire up here. You want your finished end of your spring always on this finished smooth part here. And again, if it's right, it'll be tight and you'll have to twist it on. And then it will hold your pin, the spring tension. And this open end, this unfinished end with the wire, fits in this kind of unfinished, hell, I can't think of it. But when it's in there, this holds your spring in there. So this open wire has a lip on the inside of this, and it's very rarely cleaned. And I don't know if you can see it by looking in there or not, but there's a little lip in there, and that's when you got to get this Q-tip, and instead of just going through it, you really need to lock it in that little lip there and give it a good spin and get everything out of there. So that's your top part, and I could probably go ahead. I'm just going to give that a little light coat of oil, and then because this is going in my safe. If I was carrying this gun, I wouldn't put this much oil, but when it goes in my safe, I put a little bit, and then I just give it a nice little wipe down before I put it in there. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back together real quick here. And there's plenty of videos on how to take these apart and put them back together. I always try to put my this little retainer pin right here, I try to slide it in once I get my extractor put in to make sure it's right, because that's the hardest part to fit, and it's holding it. So now I don't want to touch that, and I want that to hold it when I go to put my firing pin in here. And now my firing pin is in there, and I'm going to get this set up to put in there like it's supposed to. Can't push too hard on this or it'll stop it, but you can't let it go too loose. Maybe I will do this later when I don't have to try to worry about the time and try to keep my finger in the right spot. Come on, baby. Dan Wessons are super good fitting, so it's not going to go in. I'll put that together when I got time so I don't take up all my time. And then your barrel goes in, your ride, etc. Like I said, there's plenty of videos on how to put this together. So now that all these parts are done and clean, I'm going to move over to the frame area. And we'll move this over a little bit here. Try to get some light over here and concentrate on this area. Alright, so the things that people miss on this is a lot of holes. All these holes, you want to get some oil in there and you want to make sure and get all these holes good. On a good 1911, you'll notice that the rail is straight here. On some of your cheaper 1911s, they'll cut that part out. To me, that weakens the frame, and it's a design, not necessarily a design flaw, but it's not as a good quality gun. Your guns that have a straight rail with the hole cut in the middle tend to be a little bit better quality than the ones like this, than the ones that are just cut and there's a big gap here. Now the ones with the gap, you can just come down from the top and do a loop and clean it, no problem. These you want to definitely get in there. A real big area, number one area, always trash is inside this little, tube here, which holds this little spring, which is your safety and your, shit, I can't remember. Anyway, this little tube never gets cleaned. Squirt some oil in there, get you a pipe cleaner, and really get in there, in and out, and clean that little tube. Nobody ever cleaned these tubes, and when I clean a gun, that's always the dirtiest, rustiest spot in there. And when you allow rust and gunk to get in there, then you slide this little spring and these two little pieces in there, it really makes it difficult to keep it clean. So I want this to be nice and clean as holding that tube. So always make sure and get that good tube clean there. And again, of course, on all your rails, you want to go down each and every groove on the gun to make sure that, say I got a little dirt there and I'd already cleaned this. So I'm going to go through there really aggressively and make sure there's nothing in this groove or this rail groove here. All my grooves here I'm going through. There's a hole right here that is always neglected. I always want to make sure and go in both ways, this way, and I want to come underneath and come down and go down that hole and clean that. The rails here, a little small. Really, nobody ever pulls out the trigger on their 1911, and the trigger has these two metal pieces have little grooves and cutout that run right along here on this gun, and they're on the inside here, and rarely do people clean them. So you really want to make sure and get a Q-tip in there and clean those rails where your trigger glides, and that's going to smooth up your trigger. Of course, you polish up the trigger, and that'll help it too. And then all your pins, especially this pin here with the groove in the middle, this holes in your retaining or your, oh shit, I should know all these damn news. Anyway, it holds this part in here in the frame. When you slide this in, this pin goes here at the bottom. It's the fattest of the 3 pins, and it's got a groove in the middle. And rarely do I see people clean those grooves, and I always get rust and dirt and gunk off the center of that area. And again, any hole that you get, you want to either use a pipe cleaner or a Q-tip and make sure and get all the holes and grooves, etc. This isn't too bad. A lot of people don't clean around your slide stop. There's a little bitty gap right there that goes in, and you really want to get in there and make sure there's no rust, because these are little areas that never get wiped down very well. So oil or something stays in there, it goes bad, you shoot a bullet, dust, dirt, rain, moisture, and they're never really clean because people don't take apart their 1911s because there's a lot of parts, and it's a little intimidating if you haven't done it. There's always 3 pins, and they're all different sizes, and 2 of them will only go in one way. They won't go all the way through. This one will go all the way through. All 1911 pins are kind of designed to enter the gun on the left side of the gun. If you're pointing a gun, it's on the left side. So all the pins, if you drop them in, will not fall through, and they're designed to come in this way. So this pin goes straight through, it doesn't fall through. This one is supposed to go in that way, and it's got a little indentation. I see this pin put in backwards all the time. It's got that little bitty hole right there, so when you take it out, it's got to go in this way. So when you take out the gun, you're pounding it out straight through. And then of course the rails here, screws. A lot of people don't clean their screws. I always stick something on the screw, spray a little oil, grab it with a towel, and then spin it in the towel, and that gets all the grease and dirt and stuff around from your screws. So your screws don't end up rusting in. You can't get them out if you leave it for a year or 2, or you get a lot of moisture, gun gets wet. You want your screws, all your grooves, really good and clean. And again, the best way, spray this down with oil. Hit it with a little shot of oil. And then I'm going to grab it with a patch or something. And then when I grab it, I'm going to hold it really tight, and then I'm going to screw it and make it twist. And this rag will go in all the grooves and clean them good. And then again, anywhere there's a hole, you want to make sure where a pin goes through something, really get in there and go clean. If a Q-tip won't fit, use a pipe brush, smaller Q-tip, and basically that's the main areas that people are missing when they do it. Another thing is wherever your screws go into your frame, you want to stick a pipe cleaner in them, put some oil in there, and give them a good cleaning also. They tend to get rusty. If your screw has been rusty and dirty and you don't clean this, this will get rusty and dirty. And then all these pins, any track, there's also a little track right down here at the bottom where your trigger slides in here. So the bottom and top part slide in this rail here, and there's a little groove up top where the top part grooves in. So you want to make sure and clean those grooves also. And then once you do that, I usually give it a good wipe down with oil, spray it with oil, give it a wipe down, then put it back together, and it's good to go. So those are the most commonly missed areas. I don't know if you can tell on these grips, they're they're kind of soaking in and absorbing that oil that I put on them. So you can still see a little bit of oil there where I'm going to have to wipe that off. But when I wipe that, it's still going to be in, it's absorbing that that feed and wax or whatever it is. What is it? Feed and wax, yeah. Beeswax, orange oil, whatever. So I said I was going to go through that and do a complete breakdown. There's plenty of videos on how to take this down, how to put it together. I don't really see the need to do another one. But if I have enough requests on this video saying, hey, I want to watch you take it completely down and I want one putting it completely, I'll go ahead and do it. But there's some really good animated videos. There's all kind of things on breaking down and put them together. And when you have a jam, if you just put in 1911, you know, firing pin, 1911 rear housing area, 1911 trigger release, there's all kind of things that you can find. So I really don't see the need to rehash or rebuild the wheel. But anyway, all right, and that there, hope that helps on cleaning your 1911 good.